Metroid Dread, which it just came out, and I would say it's like the best playing Metroid. Probably it's the newest Metroid, so you'd think I would put it very high on the list. And also, I mentioned before, I'm a very new Metroid fan, so you'd think I really enjoy this one, and I did. But I had some problems with it. Was also that it was lab themed, like in Metro Fusion. It's a new planet, but it was all in a lab style. It wasn't very overgrown green and stuff. It was very just in a lab, and I wouldn't say it was even as pretty and varied as Samus Returns. Samus Returns is higher on the list. Obviously, Samus Returns is just a remake, but it felt like a totally new game, and it was like an actual planet, and it had great environments, very pretty. I thought the 3D effect on the 3DS was as pretty as it was. It had the prettiest 3D effect on any 3DS game. So weirdly enough, Dread is in HD. Yet I think it is less pretty than Samus Returns. Not very many people will probably share that opinion with me, but yeah, it's how I see it. It's not that pretty compared to Samus Returns. It also, the thing is that it uses gameplay elements from Samus Returns, so the game didn't feel as fresh. Samus Returns had a lot of new mechanics like the melee counter and the 360-degree aiming, all stuff like that, and the gameplay was really tight, and it had a 3D engine for the first time with the 2D game, or I guess the second one after Other M, if you count that one. So yeah, Dread was kind of like Samus Returns again to me, which, if Samus Returns never happened, then I maybe would have been way higher on Dread, but yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, and the thing is, I see a lot of people saying that like they're so happy with a new Metroid game. Like we waited 20 years for the Metroid 5 sequel to Metroid 4, and it's like the last one came out in 2010, basically, if I'm correct. Yeah, if you don't count Federation Force and then Samus Returns, which is a remake, if you don't count those ones, then I'm pretty sure Other M was the last one. So, I understand why people are very happy, and I am too. It was awesome to have a new Metroid game. I really enjoyed Metroid Dread, but I also felt like Samus Returns in 2017 was just a new Metroid game. It felt like a new Metroid game, and I had played another Metroid 2 remake right before it, so I did basically play the same game in a row, yet it still felt like a new game, Samus Returns. So I don't really share that opinion that I'm like super happy that Metroid is finally back, because it was back 4 years ago. Those Shine Spark abilities, they're a bit of a struggle. It's hard to pull off, and the puzzles are way harder than they ever were, in my opinion. Other than that, it was fun to use the Shine Spark, though, I would say. There's a lot of buttons to remember, a lot of abilities, a lot of buttons. It's very similar to Fusion and Other M, I would say, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I don't generally like the lab theme and that stuff. The map design is a little clunky and confusing. The enemies are annoying and they interrupt the exploration and atmosphere. I feel like, it's the same what I said earlier with Metroid Fusion, that being chased is not like super fun to me. I just want to explore. But then the things I did like, the bosses were amazing, the gameplay was solid. It was a long game, but it was not like too long. There wasn't any filler, I would say. Puzzles and collectibles were great, even if they are, a struggle sometimes. It was doable to collect everything. I did collect everything. There were some things, like a couple of things that I had to use a guide for, because they, with the Shine Spark puzzles mostly, that I was super confused with it. But yeah, I appreciate that everything was doable to collect, because some Metroid games I didn't even bother to even come close, because they were like hidden in walls that you had no idea what were there. Now in Samus Returns and Dread, they do a good job of making sure that you are able to collect everything. So that's a very good thing. And the thing with the collectibles is that most is listed on the map, so it's not about like finding it. It's more the challenge to do it. And I think that's a very good thing. Yeah, like I said, with Super Metroid and everything, collectibles were hidden in the wall, and it wasn't a challenge, more so than it was being lucky to find it. And I really appreciate that they decided to make it challenging rather than obscure. Abilities are fun, very fun. I really like the cloak ability to make you invisible with the enemies. I really like the dash move that sort of replaced the morph ball in the beginning. I like how the Shine Spark worked, even though I had some complaints with it. I really like the dash move in the air, where you can evade attacks. And it seemed like every older attack was just like upgraded. The grapple beam worked very well and stuff like that. It was super challenging, like one of the most challenging Metroid games. Normally, you'd say that older games, like on the Super Nintendo, are way harder. I would probably say that Metroid Dread is a lot harder than Super Metroid was. Maybe I should play it again and fact check that, but I kind of feel like Metroid Dread was more challenging, maybe in a modern and more fair way. You know, Super Metroid was maybe more outdated and clunky, but they purposely made bosses really hard and stuff, and had a lot of difficult patterns. So yeah, Metroid Dread was one of the most hardest Metroid games. The story was fun and engaging, I would say. There was some plot twists, there was a lot of lore, and I really enjoyed how they finished it and everything. The enemies, especially at the beginning, were really fun and scary. So, those were all my negatives and positives. Metroid Dread at number